Uh, Hello everyone. Very good evening. Uh, Please let me know if my voice is clear. Am I audible to everyone? Hello everyone. Uh, Please do comment in the chat session so that we can start the session. Very good evening, Sarita. Yeah, so so in this session we'll finish biomes and we'll start biogeochemical cycles. So there are two biomes which are left, desert biome and aquatic biome. So we'll move quickly through these because now you have a certain idea what is important in each biome, what are the things that you need to study and remember. So because it is mostly factual, so we'll quickly move through this and we'll start biogeochemical cycles. There in that topic, in biogeochemical cycles, there are certain concepts that you need to understand so that you can remember. Okay. Let's start with the desert biome. Obviously, as the name suggests, so deserts are those ecosystems which receive very less rainfall. Okay, so there is scarcity of water, aridity is there. So deserts can be hot deserts or cold deserts. Basic characteristic is the precipitation is very low. The temperatures can vary. All right. So let us quickly move through the characteristics. So there is very less rainfall. So overall, if you see, less than 25 centimeters of rainfall. Okay, so 25 centimeters or less. So that is the important characteristic. So obviously, because of less rainfall, the conditions are the desert conditions, or there is lot of there is aridity. So arid conditions are those conditions where there is scarcity of water. Obviously, wind velocity will also be very high because there is no barrier to slow down the wind. So there are no trees and all. So that is why dust storms or the sand dunes, they keep on shifting because there is no barrier to stop the wind. So wind velocity is very high. That is another characteristic. Then temperature extremes. Okay, so this ecosystem or this particular biome, it has very high temperature during the day and low temperature during the nights because the mineral matter, so mainly there is no organic matter, there is no vegetation. Okay, so the mineral matter, it heats up very quickly and it cools very quickly. So if there is water, if there is presence of water, so water has a higher specific heat, so it will heat up slowly and it will cool down slowly. Okay, so that is the reason why in maritime climate where there is ocean nearby, the temperatures are not very extreme during the day and night, right? So uh, nights are not very cold, but in case of desert biome, obviously there are no water bodies to moderate, so days are very hot because the mineral matter or the sand will heat up very quickly, and it will also lose the heat very quickly because there is no vegetation to form a barrier. So terrestrial radiation, so heat will be lost, long wave radiation in the form of long wave radiation, and the nights will be very cold. Humidity is also very low because there is no water, there is no rainfall, so humidity is also very low. Obviously, because of less water, less humidity, vegetation is not there, so the biome cannot support a lot of population of any species. So population density is also very low in this kind of biome. So scarcity of water, obviously because of low rainfall. Then biodiversity. So even though the conditions are very challenging, there are certain organisms or certain animals or plants which survive in these harsh conditions. So biodiversity is comparatively low, but still we have certain animals which have adapted to these conditions. And soil quality is also very poor. They are poor in nutrients. Okay, mainly the soil is composed of coarse fragments. So rocks, rocky soil or dry soil or sandy soil. Okay, it does not have enough organic matter, nutrient poor soil. So soil quality is also very poor. So these are certain characteristics of desert biome. So desert is a location where the rainfall is very less. It is less than 25 centimeter annually. Okay, so deserts make up around 1/3 of the planet's surface area. Okay, or basically not surface area, because surface area में तो ocean, land दोनों आता है. 1/3 of the land area, sorry, of the total land, 1/3 is desert. Now, so based on their dryness, deserts can be classified into different types. So we have subtropical deserts, coastal deserts which occur in the coastal regions, subtropical deserts. Then we have rain shadow deserts. Because of the mountains, it causes rain shadow effect. Then interior deserts which occur in the interior of the continents. So that is why winds, even though the winds bring moisture, most of the rainfall happens in the coastal region, and as the winds blow to the interior, suppose ऐसा कोई region है, okay, so winds are blowing from the oceans, they are bringing moisture. So by the time they move to this area, most of the rainfall happens in this particular area. So most of the rainfall happens, and by the time it comes here, there is not enough moisture, so rainfall is very low. So interior, so तुम्हारा जो Gobi desert है, so Gobi desert is an example of interior deserts. Then you have polar deserts, so your Antarctic region, so frozen area है पूरा, so precipitation is also very low, so that is an example of polar deserts. So there are different type of deserts, we will discuss them one by one, where they occur, okay, what is the reason for their occurrence. So first one is subtropical deserts. So basically it is air circulation, so air mass circulation, that is responsible for these deserts. So they occur between 15 to 30 degrees north or south of the equator. They can be found along the Tropic of Cancer or Tropic of Capricorn respectively. So what happens is, so let us, so please look at this diagram. So what happens, so these trade winds, so trade winds, they move towards the equator, and when they reach the equator from both the sides, both north and south side of the planet, they merge and they ascend. So these winds, they ascend, increase in height, so they move upwards. So as they move upwards, the temperature drops. With the increase in altitude, temperature will drop, cloud formation will take place, and there is heavy rainfall in this region. So that is why we have tropical rainforest in that particular area. So heavy rainfall happens because of the ascending wind which carries moisture, and downpour होता है पूरा, बहुत ज़्यादा बारिश होता है. Now, as these winds lose moisture, so once they reach the troposphere, I mean upper parts of the troposphere, so these winds, they slowly descend. So they reach to a certain altitude, formation of clouds happen, rainfall happens, and they slowly descend. So these winds, look at this particular diagram. So the winds, once the rain happens, so these winds, they will start to descend. So they descend in the area of subtropical high pressure zone. So this is because of these winds which have cooled down. So now they are descending. So the rainfall has happened. They have lost their moisture. So these regions, they don't receive enough rainfall. They don't receive much of rainfall because the winds have already lost all the moisture near the tropical zone. So this is the reason why in those regions, subtropical high belt regions, you have very less rainfall. So near the equator, hot humid air, it rises into the atmosphere. So heavy tropical rains occur in that particular region, because as these winds they ascend, they will cool down and cloud formation will take place and it will result in rain. So as a result, an air mass that is cooler now, after the rain has happened, it has lost all the moisture, the winds. So an air mass that is cooler and drier because it has lost the moisture flows away from the equator. It moves away from the equator. The air lowers and warms up once again as it gets closer to the tropics. So when it descends, cool air, when it descends, it gets again heated up. So it has lost all the moisture. So there is no moisture left for the rainfall. So the air is dropping, which prevents the clouds to form and causes very little rain in this particular region. So Sahara desert is an example. So Sahara, the largest and hottest desert in the world, is in North Africa, and almost all of the continental United States. So central part, जो US का Midwest या central part है, that falls under this particular region. Then Tanami deserts in northern Australia and Kalahari desert in South Africa. So these are also examples of your subtropical deserts. Okay. Then, so here are the location on the map. So your Sahara desert, so Central America, Central United States. Then you have Tanami desert in Australia, Kalahari desert in South Africa and Namibia. So these are the examples of your subtropical deserts. Now there are cold deserts also. So interior desert ka example is Gobi desert, which occurs in the interior parts of the Asian continent. Okay, then we have coastal deserts also. So example here is Atacama desert. It is a coastal desert. So coastal deserts. All right. So coastal deserts, they occur along the coast. Okay. So what happens here is the cold ocean currents. So if you see South American map, so map of South America is something like this, right? Something like this. So यहाँ से जो Peruvian current है, so it is flowing from Southern Ocean. So Peruvian current brings cold water. Okay. So the water is very cold. So the winds which are blowing from the above the ocean, it becomes cooler because of the ocean current. So the wind which is in contact with the ocean water, it will become cooler. So this cooler wind, when it reaches the continental part, so coast of the Peru or Chile, so it becomes very foggy. So it is carrying little bit moisture, but the wind is very cold. It cannot hold enough moisture. So if the wind is warm, temperatures अगर ज़्यादा हैं, the air can hold more moisture. As the temperature drops, the ability of the wind to carry moisture will drop. So इसीलिए जब temperature drop होता है तो बारिश हो जाता है. So when the temperatures are high, the air can carry more water. So humidity will be very high. So here the temperatures are very low. That is why they cannot hold much moisture. So they bring fog. So it causes fog in this particular region, but very less rainfall, almost negligible rainfall. So that is why your Atacama desert it was created because of this particular reason. And another reason is that the Andes mountains, so Andes mountains जो है साउथ अमेरिका में, so Andes mountains जो हैं, they create rain shadow effect. Now what happens, the trade winds which bring moisture from the ocean, so these winds, they carry a lot of moisture, but what happens, these Andes mountains are in the way. So southeast trade winds, they are carrying moisture, they ascend because of the presence of Andes mountains. So Andes mountains cause them to ascend to the higher altitudes, and as they ascend, the temperature drops and formation of clouds will happen, and most of the precipitation will happen on the windward side. So इस तरफ ही ज़्यादा बारिश हो जाता है, and when the air becomes dry, it will start to come down on this side, but it will not have enough moisture. So most of the rain happens on the windward side, leeward side कुछ बचता नहीं है. So this is the rain shadow region. So Atacama Desert is here, coastal. So that is another reason why we have Atacama Desert on the western coast of South America, right? So deserts along the coast are a result of cold ocean currents. So a layer of fog is created when the cold water contacts the wind that is blowing towards the shore. But the wind is, the temperatures are very low because of the cold ocean current. So जो तुम्हारा water है, it is very cold, and the wind which is in contact with the water, its temperature also drops. So cold wind cannot hold much moisture. ज़्यादा temperature होगा तभी वो enough moisture को hold कर पाएगा, right? So despite the high humidity, it can carry enough humidity, but that is not enough. So temperatures are not high enough, temperatures are low, इसलिए वो ज़्यादा ह्यूमिडिटी कैरी नहीं कर पाता. एंड दिस क्रिएट्स फॉग बिकॉज ऑफ द ह्यूमिडिटी. व्हेन दीज विंड्स ब्लो टू द शोर, it creates fog in that region, but not enough rainfall. So on the Chile's Pacific coast, there is a coastal desert called as Atacama Desert. So it has frequent fog covering. So people वहाँ पर क्या है, there have been several trials that they have created mesh like structure, grass से mesh बनाते हैं. So that mesh helps in formation, nucleation, and that fog will be it will have enough space. So fog क्या है, वो अगर कहीं पे surface मिलता है तो it will, because of the low temperatures, it will form drops, dew formation होता है. That dew is collected by people to form drinking water. So वो जो fog जब enough surface area मिल जाता है, so they have created nets. So when this fog contacts the net, because of the low temperature, the fog will condense and you will have drops of water. So that water is collected for drinking purpose. So in many years, so वहाँ के जो weather stations हैं, meteorological observatories which are present there, they have not recorded any rainfall for long period. So the rainfall is very less in this particular region. So driest part है ये. So it is one of the driest regions on the earth. So एक तो cold ocean current, and second one is the rain shadow effect of Andes mountains. So that is the reason for the desert in the coastal, the western coast of South America, Atacama Desert. Then we have rain shadow deserts. So here the example is your you can say western part of United States. So तुम्हारा जो कैलिफोर्निया नवाडा रीजन है, जो ड्राई एरिया है, डेजर्ट है, so that is because of the rain shadow effect of Sierra Nevada mountain range. So what happens here is, okay, let me enlarge this. Okay, so the winds which are blowing from the Pacific Ocean, they carry moisture. Okay, they bring moisture towards the land. But what happens here is, there is a mountain range in the western coast. So Sierra Nevada range जो है, because of the presence of these mountains, the winds which are blowing from the ocean towards the continent, they ascend because of the presence of these mountains, and cloud formation will take place here, and most of the rainfall happens in this region. So उसका जो windward side में ही पूरा rainfall होता है, जो leeward side है, on the other side there is, when the rainfall has happened, the winds will slowly descend, but there is not enough moisture for the rainfall. So this region which falls in the rain shadow region, so that is your Great Basin. So here, so Sierra Nevada जो है ये माउंटेन रेंज की वजह से इस तरफ बिल्कुल बारिश नहीं होता है. So your Death Valley, here is your Death Valley. If you can see, Death Valley, one of the driest regions. This is because of the rain shadow effect of your Sierra Nevada mountain range in the United States. So western part of United States, वहाँ पे जो Great Basin है, it is one of the driest deserts. This is because of the rain shadow effect of mountain range. So deserts in the rain shadow can be found close to the leeward slopes of various mountain range. So most of the rainfall happens on the windward side. जिस तरफ से wind आ रहा है उधर ही बारिश हो जाता है. On the other side, which is leeward side, the winds will not have enough moisture for rainfall. So air with moisture is forced to climb when they encounter any barrier like mountain ranges, and most of the rainfall happens because of the wind which ascends. It becomes cooler and temperature drops and formation of clouds happen, and most of the rainfall happens on the windward side. So when the air crosses the peak and starts to descend on the leeward slopes, there isn't much moisture remaining in the air. So there is no rainfall. So a rain shadow desert called as Death Valley is located in the American state of California and Nevada. Right? So Sierra Nevada mountains rain shadow is where you will find Death Valley, which is also the lowest and driest region in North America. पूरे continent में driest region है ये. Then we have interior deserts, like example दिया था Gobi desert का. So when the oh, so this is your Asian continent, suppose. So when the winds are blowing from the ocean towards the continent, most of the rainfall happens in the coastal region. So as the winds move towards the interior region, there isn't enough moisture. So ये वाला जो interior region है, that is your Gobi desert. So इस तरफ नीचे हिमालयस हैं, नेपाल है, ये सब है, right? So even Himalayas, they also act as a barrier. So जो south से winds आ रहे हैं वो नहीं आ पाते हैं because of the Himalayan ranges, and on the other side most of the rainfall happens in the coastal region. So Gobi desert in Mongolia and China, so that is an example of interior desert. So because no moist wind can reach the interior deserts, okay, which are found in the center of the continents. So air masses from the coastal regions have completely lost their moisture. By the time they reach the interior of the continents, most of the rainfall has happened already. So जो winds हैं वो dry हो जाते हैं. Okay, so China and Mongolia में जो Gobi desert है, that is because of this reason. And another reason is Himalayas are also causing a rain shadow effect because south से जो winds आ रहे हैं वो Himalayas को cross नहीं कर पाते. All right. Then polar deserts, obviously जो Arctic and Antarctic region है. So water is available, but it is not available in usable form. It is frozen. Okay. And annual precipitation is very low. Annual precipitation जो होता है, it is in the form of snow. It is very low. So there is lot of water available, but it is not in usable form. It is frozen. So polar deserts are your Arctic and Antarctic region. These are also known as polar deserts. So arid climate है, enough precipitation is not available, especially जो interior है. Coastal regions में थोड़ा बहुत precipitation होता है. Antarctic region में we have seen that already in the tundra biome. Interior Antarctic में precipitation is very low. So these are the deserts, I mean the location of the deserts. Are we clear up to here? यहाँ तक ठीक है? रफली थोड़ा आइडिया मिल गया? इंटीरियर डेजर्ट्स, रेन शैडो डेजर्ट, कोस्टल डेजर्ट्स, right, subtropical deserts, the reason for their formation. You will learn them in detail in geography, physical geography, but थोड़ा आइडिया मिल गया है तो we can move on. Fine. So climate, basically very little availability of moisture because precipitation is very low, less than 25 centimeters annually. So due to the availability of little moisture in the air to capture and hold on to the heat emanating from the high temperature during the day, desert nights are typically colder. So basically the what this statement means is, because of very little humidity, अगर humidity है तो heat को capture कर सकता है. If there is no humidity, see, humidity means basically water, right? Air में moisture है. So moisture can hold temperature, so it will keep the area warm. Because of lack of humidity, so whatever so during the daytime the sun's rays will fall directly onto the soil surface. It will heat up the soil surface during the daytime. In the night time terrestrial radiation is there. That means जो hot bodies हैं, all the hot bodies like rock or the sand which has captured the heat during the daytime, it will re-radiate. It will re-radiate, long wave radiation है तुम्हारा, it will lose the heat. So if you have enough vegetation, the vegetation can capture the heat, or if you have enough moisture, that moisture can hold the temperature. It can capture the temperature. It will not easily lose heat. So मॉइस्चर नहीं है इसलिए दिन में बहुत गर्म होता है. द डेज आर वेरी हॉट एंड द नाइट्स आर वेरी कोल्ड बिकॉज टेरेस्ट्रियल रेडिएशन, द टेरेस्ट्रियल रेडिएशन, देयर इज नथिंग टू कैप्चर द हीट. तो ना वेजिटेशन है ना मॉइस्चर है. ह्यूमिडिटी इज ऑल्सो वेरी लेस. सो कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ एक्सट्रीम टेम्परेचर फ्लक्चुएशंस एंड इनक्रेडिबली लो वाटर in that area makes it a very harsh region. So temperatures are so extreme during the day because there is very little moisture in the atmosphere to block the sun's rays. So even तुम्हारा जो sun's rays which are entering into the earth's atmosphere 100% reach नहीं होता है. So dust particles, ozone layer, other gases, okay, even your moisture, humidity, they reflect some of the radiation back into the space. If you don't have enough moisture, there is nothing to block the radiation. So daytime में बहुत गर्म होता है. Okay, this means that sun's energy is absorbed on the ground surface and it will heat up the surrounding air also. Ground surface heat हो जाएगा तो the air which is near the ground surface, it will also get heated up. So day temperatures are very high. And during the night time, exact opposite happens. The heated ground plus the hot air re-radiates the heat absorbed during the day back into the atmosphere, triggering very low temperatures. So drop of temperatures. So night time में बहुत ठंडा होता है, डे टाइम में बहुत गर्म होता है. So temperature extremes are there in the daytime and night time. Night time में temperatures can drop below zero in some areas. So precipitation is very low, less than 25 centimeters. Atacama Desert is the driest place. Okay. So rain normally occurs as violent thunderstorm in a very short period of time. That also leads to erosion problem in this area. जो भी rainfall है ये spread नहीं होता है. Rainfall means it is not spread in time. Most of the rain which happens, जो भी 25 centimeter जो भी थोड़ा बहुत है वो short period में receive होता है. That also creates flash floods and erosion problem. So vegetation, obviously there are certain adaptations. So even the plants which are surviving in these conditions, they have certain adaptations to these extreme conditions. So the very little rainfall experienced in the desert biomes as well as extreme day temperature fluctuations make it very difficult for the organisms, plants or animals. Okay, most of the plants which are found in these type of biomes, they are cacti, small shrubs, cactus, succulent plants which can hold water, and grasses. Trees तुमको नहीं मिलेंगे यहाँ पर. Very rarely you will see small shrubs, generally shrubs and grasses and cactus, they are commonly found. बहुत बड़े trees तो बिल्कुल नहीं मिलेंगे यहाँ पर. So plants of the desert biome include brittle bush, desert ironwood, chain fruit cholla, Joshua tree, so prickly pears, right? So these are the examples. So brittle bush, ironwood tree, then you have chain fruit cholla, Joshua tree. So these are some examples of plants in the desert biome. Then Palo Viridae, so these are the flowers. Jumping cholla, so this is how they vegetatively propagate, right? Animals जो हैं उनको वो चुप जाते हैं, so they are vegetative propagation structures, so they spread by attaching themselves to the animals or fauna. Jumping cholla. We have ocotillo and pancake prickly pear cactus. So they look like pancakes. जो भी तुम्हारा ये जो stem है, modified stem, it look like pancake. Prickly pear cactus. These are some of the examples of plants. Then we have soap tree, yucca plant, and Mojave aster. These are, give two examples. एक दो examples याद रख लो. Whichever you find it easy to remember, at least give two examples when they ask about the flora. Now coming to the adaptations. Either these plants have deep root system so that they can absorb the moisture or take the moisture from the deeper layers of the soil, or they have a mechanism where they can hold the water in their body. So in case of succulent plants, cactus है जैसे, they can hold the moisture, or they have adaptations like they have very small stomata so that transpiration losses will be reduced, or their leaves have reduced, or their leaves have modified into spines, and so on. So plants have many adaptations. Some have developed long tap roots to be able to reach water tables. Other become dormant until the rain returns. So harsh conditions mein they become dormant. Seeds don't germinate. In case of barrel cactus, so this is the example of, this is the picture of barrel cactus. So barrel cactus has expandable stem for storing water. So during the rainy season, whatever moisture is available, it will absorb it and it will store it in its tissue. वो अपने टिश्यू में स्टोर कर लेता है. Some other examples of plants adaptations are, some have waxy coating on their leaves to reduce the transpiration. Some have small leaves or no leaves at all. They are modified into spines or thorns. Okay, so plants lose their water through transpiration process. Okay, so the transpiration mainly happens through stomata. So some plants have small stomata to reduce the rate of transpiration. So stomata of some desert plants like bitterroot. So this is the bitterroot plant. They have smaller stomata, and the number of stomata are also reduced. So the number of stomata are also reduced so that transpiration losses will be minimized. Then annual plants, they try to complete their life cycle within the very short period during which moisture is available. So this is another modification to complete their life cycle within a very short period of time. Few days में अपना life cycle complete कर लेता है. Then perennial plants, they have certain adaptations to endure the harsh conditions, like they have deep root system or the reduced size of the leaves and so on. So grasses have large and complex root system to allow capture moisture from larger area. Another example is bunch grasses. So bunch grass, they grow in isolated tufts. Bunches में grow होते हैं. So this is a bunch, this is another bunch, this is another bunch, this is another bunch. So they grow in bunch so that competition is minimized. एक bunch का जो area है वो specific area, it will absorb moisture from that area. Another bunch will have its own territory. So that competition is minimized. So this reduces competition between the plants and assures tuft grass its own territory from which it can absorb moisture. Okay. Then there are special plants, suffruscent shrubs. So suffruscent shrubs का मतलब क्या है? They have two types of stem. Okay, so they have a woody stem and they have semi-woody stem. So woody stem, it is permanent. So it will remain even in the congenial conditions when there is rainfall or even in harsh conditions, right? Then there is another stem which is, so एक ही plant में lower part जो है that will be woody. The upper part which is less woody, or you can say semi-woody part, that is that shows the growth during water availability. So these shrubs are perennial plants that uses strategies of both annual plants and perennial plants. So they have these characters. Annual plant की तरह भी behave करता है, perennial plant की तरह भी behave करता है. So they maintain a woody base throughout the year. So lower part जो है that will be more woody and it will survive throughout the year. But during the water availability, leafy shoots will start to grow. So semi-woody part जो है, जो upper part, it will start showing the growth when water is available. So example is your Nuttall salt bush, which is example for your suffruscent shrubs. So these shrubs have two types of stem. So that is another adaptation. Then some plants like sagebrush, they have hair, okay, trichomes covering their aerial parts. That is why they appear gray in color. So this will reflect the sunlight and reduce the transpiration rate. So big sagebush grows two sets of leaves. So during the harsh conditions when there is no rainfall, उस time पे जो leaves हैं वो spiny छोटे छोटे leaves होते हैं, small leaves. But when moisture is available, it will have broader leaves. So broader leaves it will grow broader leaves when moisture is available. So जब बारिश खत्म हो जाता है, harsh condition starts, it will shed the broader leaves and it will develop small leaves. So दो type के leaves हैं. In different season, it will have different type of leaves. It also has three levels of root system. इसका adventitious roots भी हैं which grow in the surface. It also has tap root system to go deep into the soil layers. So this is another example of an adaptation in the desert biome. So some plants have very small leaves to reduce the transpiration. And in case of cactus, prickly pear cactus, it will hold the moisture in the stem. तभी succulent stem में pancake prickly pear देखा था. So it has succulent stem, thick stem which can hold. It has spongy tissue which can hold moisture. So it utilizes that water during the scarce period. When water is available, it will absorb moisture. जब पानी नहीं मिलता है तो it will utilize that moisture which it has absorbed during the rainy season. So these are some examples of flora. Now when it comes to fauna, what are the different type of animals that you see in the desert biome? So you have camels, bobcats, so ये तुम्हारा cold deserts में मिलेंगे, coyotes drier parts में, tropical deserts में. Then you have javelina, desert tortoise, cactus wren, desert kangaroo rat, so desert toad, thorny devil, desert bighorn sheep. So I will show you the pictures. So this is the type of pig, javelina. Then you have desert tortoise, cactus wren, kangaroo rat. So kangaroo rat में और भी adaptations हैं. So kangaroo rat, it will urinate very little. It will reduce the moisture loss by urinating almost negligible amount of urine. So urine करता नहीं है या फिर बहुत कम करता है. So to conserve moisture. So most of the animals are nocturnal. तो दिन में बहुत गर्म होता है. So most of the animals are nocturnal, or even if they are coming out in daytime, they will remain in shade. Birds obviously, because they have wings, they can fly, they can move or migrate. Most of the insects or other small animals or reptiles, they go into estivation, resting phase. Okay, some dig and make burrows and they hide inside. Other animals, they come out only during the dawn or dusk, crepuscular बोलते हैं, तो they come out during the early, before sunrise and after sunset. So there are several type of adaptations. Then we have this desert toad, then thorny devil, it is a reptile lizard hai. Then bighorn sheep, armadillo lizard, so it looks like armadillo because it folds itself, अपने fold कर लेता है. Then pronghorn antelope, these are some examples of fauna found in the deserts. Animal adaptations में क्या है? So conserving water is the most important adaptation. So some of the animals, they have no sweat glands, or some of the animals, they pass no urine or very, very little concentrated urine, as in the case of kangaroo rat. They acquire all or most of the moisture they need from the food, because water पीने के लिए पानी नहीं है. So whatever moisture they get it from the either plants if they are herbivores, or if they are carnivores, from the herbivores. यानी जो carnivore animal है, it will eat on the herbivore. So herbivore के flesh में जो water है, that is the source of water, because बाहर पानी नहीं है ज़्यादा. So animals or plants are the source of water. Okay. So almost all animals in the deserts, they stay out of the sun during the hot, obviously डे टाइम में अगर बाहर आ रहे हैं, डायurnal एनिमल है तो दे विल रिमेन इन द शेड, और दे विल रिमेन इन द burrows. They will dig burrows, smaller animals especially. So most animals get their water from the food. So if herbivores are there, they will eat the plants. So plants पे जो moisture है वो मिलता है. If the carnivores are there, carnivores will eat the herbivores. So flesh में जो water है वहाँ से मिलता है, tissue में. So there are few animals that can be seen during the daytime and they will remain in the shade. Birds have the ability to fly, they can migrate. Okay. So they have adapted because flying generates heat, तो body का temperature ज़्यादा होता है, and the birds have adapted to high temperatures. So flight also enables the bird to migrate to cooler regions. Feathers of the birds also help them to insulate themselves from the sun. Directly body के ऊपर sunlight नहीं गिरता है, the wings will insulate the bird. Owls and nighthawks. So this is another adaptation which is seen in owls and nighthawks. They open their mouth and they vibrate their throat. So evaporative cooling बताया था, याद है? So जब मटका है, जब pot के अंदर तुम्हारा water cool क्यों रहता है? Evaporative cooling. So water will be lost or water will be evaporated through the small pores in the surface of the pot. तो पूरा pot गीला लगता है तुमको ना? Pot गीला क्यों होता है? Because small pores are still there in the pot surface. So water will move through these pores and it will come out. So water evaporate होता है, that creates cooling effect. Your body, you perspire, perspiration जो हो रहा है, you lose the sweat to cool your body temperature. So that is also evaporative cooling. So here they lose the moisture by opening their mouth and they vibrate their throat. So मुंह में जो थोड़ा बहुत moisture है, that will be lost and the body temperature will drop. So many birds are active during the dawn, early, सुबह. So by the time sun comes out, they will rest. They will do most of the work during the dawn time, early morning. Bats, rodents and some large animals, they are nocturnal. They have developed this nocturnal habit. So mule deer and elk are crepuscular. That means during the dawn and the dusk, they are mostly active when the temperatures are low, early morning or late in the evening. Then migration is another behavior. So large mammals जो हैं, जो तुम्हारा mule deer है, they will migrate. Several animals have evolved appendages to dissipate body heat into the environment. For example, in case of jackrabbit, so they have very large ears, right? To cool down their body, they will pump their blood into the vessels in the ears, and when it comes in contact with the air, the blood will heat will be dissipated. तो अपने बॉडी को कूल करने के लिए it will pump the blood into the vessels in the ear, okay, and it will cool down the temperature. So similar adaptation is seen in other animals also, okay. So some may go into estivation or summer sleep, they go into a resting period, okay. Some animals have light color coats. क्यों? डार्क कोटिंग होगा तो ज़्यादा सन का लाइट को एब्जॉर्ब करेगा, लाइटर कोट होगा तो इट विल रिफ्लेक्ट मोस्ट ऑफ द लाइट. एंड ड्यूरिंग द नाइट टाइम दिस फर ऑल्सो कीप्स द एनिमल वार्म, क्योंकि नाइट टाइम में टेम्परेचर बहुत ड्रॉप होता है. डे टाइम टेम्परेचर इज वेरी हाई, नाइट टाइम टेम्परेचर इज वेरी लो. सो नाइट टाइम में फर विल प्रोटेक्ट इट and keep it warm. During the daytime, the fur coating is lighter in color to reflect most of the sunlight. So reptiles, okay, they are cold-blooded. Okay, so reptiles are cold-blooded. They stay about this. I mean, that body temperature will be as. I mean, it will be same as the surrounding, because they don't generate their own body heat. Body जो तुम्हारा respiration से, माइटोकॉन्ड्रियल रेस्पिरेशन से जो हीट जनरेट होता है मैमल्स के केस में, वैसा रेप्टाइल्स में नहीं है. तो दे आर कोल्ड ब्लडेड, सो दे एब्जॉर्ब द हीट फ्रॉम द सराउंडिंग्स. सो दे स्टे ऑन रॉक्स टू एब्जॉर्ब द हीट. सो मेनी रेप्टाइल्स आर ओनली एक्टिव एट नाइट, बट क्योंकि दिन में बॉडी टेम्परेचर बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाएगा, दैट इज वाई मोस्ट ऑफ द रेप्टाइल्स आर एक्टिव एट नाइट. सो दिन में भी जो होता है, दोज विच आर डायूर्नल, दे रिमेन इन द शेड. Okay, most lizards have long legs so that जमीन से थोड़ा ऊपर रहेगा, otherwise their belly will be touching the floor. So they have long legs to keep their body bit above from the ground surface, so that air circulation से cool रहेगा. Otherwise if it touches the ground will be very hot, so temperature will increase because they absorb the heat from the surroundings. They have long legs to keep their body bit above on the ground surface. So camel has this adaptation where it can store fat in the hump. Camel does not store water. लोग सोचते हैं कि camel water को store करता है. No, camel does not store water. It stores fat in the hump. So that is the reason why it can go without any food or water for long periods. It stores fat reserves, not water. So nostrils in the camel, it can close the nostrils. So dust storm जब भी wind आता है तो बंद कर सकता है. It has eyelashes, 2 layers of eyelashes to protect itself from the dust and wind. Foxes survive by burrowing or by nocturnal lifestyle. दिन में burrow कर लेगा, night time में बाहर निकलेगा. Okay, so their thick sandy fur helps them to protect from cold during the night time, and fur will reflect the sunlight during the daytime, so their body will remain cool. So that was about the desert biome flora and fauna. Threats क्या है? Obviously, if animal rearing is practiced in that particular region, overgrazing can be a problem. Destruction of vegetation, whatever is there, उसको भी. Conversion to agriculture, if you are converting the land into agricultural land, the habitat will be destroyed. Water and soil pollution. Agriculture practice कर रहे हो तो obviously inputs will be used and that may cause pollution. Land modification for industrial operations. Mining, fossil fuel exploration and extraction, they are the threats. Okay, as an example, we can give the example of Texas. Dry region है, but this is one of the booming areas for oil exploration. बहुत ज़्यादा oil produce करता है Texas. Now, coming to aquatic biome. So we'll quickly move through this aquatic biome. So aquatic biome is basically presence of water is the main characteristics. So there are two types of biome: terrestrial biomes and aquatic biome. Terrestrial biome is land पे जो है, okay, which is on the lithosphere. So terrestrial biomes में we have seen till now whatever biomes we have seen: desert biome, tropical rainforest, tundra, taiga, right? Grasslands, they are all terrestrial biomes. Aquatic biome is comprising of water. So aquatic biome में भी दो टाइप है, fresh water biome and marine biome. Fresh water biome में ponds, lakes, wherever you have fresh water available. Marine biomes में seas and oceans. Obviously the difference between sea and ocean is size, mainly size के basis पे. So aquatic biomes as opposed to terrestrial biomes exist in around water body. So 70% of the earth's surface is water. उसमें भी जो भी तुम्हारा वाटर है, वाटर बॉडीज हैं, 98% इज सॉल्ट वाटर. ओनली 2% जो है तुम्हारा फ्रेश वाटर. एंड एक्वाटिक बायोम्स एग्जिस्ट बोथ इन सॉल्ट वाटर एंड फ्रेश वाटर. ऑलराइट, सो दिस इज वेरी कॉमन, आई मीन कॉमन नॉलेज, सबको पता है इसके बारे में. सो इन वाटर बेस्ड सेटिंग, an aquatic ecosystem is community of species that live together, interact and to some extent rely on each other. Obviously ecosystem का मतलब ही वही है. So relationship of organisms with each other and with the physical environment. And it is self-sustaining. Okay, self-sustaining system है. It can capture the energy and it can the energy will be transferred from one trophic level to another trophic level. So self-sustaining system. So there are two types. There are two types of aquatic biomes: freshwater biomes and marine biomes. So freshwater biomes में rivers, lakes and ponds, and oceans and seas they fall under marine biomes. Main characteristic is the biome is immersed or it is water based. Aquatic है basically. Okay. That is most important characteristic, and it is a self-sufficient community. So first of all, let us look at freshwater biome, then we will move on to marine biomes. So freshwater biome में we have again two types: standing water type and running water type. Lentic and lotic systems हैं. So basically standing water type में lakes and ponds आते हैं. Running water में you have creeks, streams, rivers, that is running water biomes. Okay, and freshwater biomes are very important because organisms depend upon it as a source of food, as a source of water. Agriculture भी यहीं से होता है. Okay, so freshwater biomes are very important for survival of other organisms. All right, without fresh water the biodiversity will be very less. So only marine organisms will survive. Fresh water के बिना बाकी organisms survive नहीं कर सकते हैं. Flora and fauna will not flourish. Now, so standing freshwater biomes में we have examples of ponds and lakes. Now the difference between ponds and lakes is lakes are very deep, larger than ponds. Ponds can be few square meters or it can be even larger. Lakes are very large in size. So ponds में क्या है? Ponds में shallow water होता है. Sunlight can easily reach the bottom. The water is not deep enough, so sunlight can easily penetrate even to the bottom. Lakes में there are big lakes where sunlight cannot reach to the bottom of the lakes. So lakes are larger and sunlight can reach only up to certain level. It may not reach the bottom of the lake. So ponds are often smaller than lakes, shallow enough so that sunlight can reach. So as a result, lakes like ocean can be classified into zones. Lakes क्या है? Because they are deep enough. So ponds में तुम zones नहीं दिखा सकते because it is very shallow. So shallow है तो sunlight can reach the bottom of the lake, bottom of the pond. But lakes में क्या है? You have darker region, you have region where light can penetrate. So lakes में you have different zones. Okay, so let us see the zones first. So first one is littoral zone. In a lake we have different zones. So this is littoral zone, which is near the land. जो तुम्हारा bank पे है ना, so which is very near to the land and which can support the plant life. So littoral zone is defined as the water nearest to the shore, nearest to the shore. So water in the littoral zone is generally shallow enough so that sunlight can enter and plants flourish and photosynthesis can take place. So primary production happens here, right? So enough sunlight will reach and plants will grow and flourish. Photosynthesis takes place in this region. So this is littoral zone. ये पूरा यहाँ से यहाँ तक पूरा littoral zone है. The top layer of lake water distant from the coast. So coast या shore से जो दूर है, which is away from the coast. Okay, so this is near the coast. So ये littoral zone है, which is away from the coast. This is called limnatic zone. This is known as limnatic zone. So this zone covers a large portion of the lake surface, yet it only extends as deep as sunlight can penetrate, maximum up to 200 meters. So only to the region where sunlight can penetrate. जहाँ sunlight penetrate नहीं कर सकता है, जो darker region है, it is known as profundal zone. This zone is called as profundal zone. So here photosynthesis does not take place because there is no sunlight. So the bottom of the lake receives sunlight near the shore, not in the farther regions. Okay. So near the shore we have different types of fauna like crayfish. So it is a type of crustacean basically. Lobster family से belong करता है. Crustaceans, small crustaceans. Snails हैं यहाँ पर. Mollusks. Different insects are also available here. Okay. There are plenty of plants growing in the littoral zone. So ponds and lakes, they form the freshwater ecosystem. So some ponds are temporary, they appear and go. So rainy season में तुमको pond मिलेगा, summer में dry हो जाएगा. Okay. Some have been around for a long period of time. That means in some areas you will see ponds or water bodies throughout the year. Okay. So they can be seen in variety of settings. हर जगह मिलेंगे, हर continent में मिलेंगे तुमको ये. Some ponds or lakes are very small, others are very large, spanning to few kilometers. Okay, so there are many freshwater species in lakes and ponds. Okay, just as in the case of, so lakes and ponds, your static water bodies हैं. Just as in the case of moving water bodies like rivers and streams, वहाँ पर भी बहुत सारा flora and fauna है. In the same way, in the lakes and ponds also you will see lot of flora and fauna. Then there are wetlands. So wetlands are basically marshy areas. So the soil is saturated with water. Okay. So wetlands are areas where standing water is present. So it can be compared to water saturated land. So swamps, bogs, marshes, floodplains, prairie potholes, these are examples of your wetlands. So wetlands also support a lot of biodiversity. So they can be found all over the world and are frequently found near huge quantities of water such as lakes and rivers. So they are near the water bodies. क्यों? जो lake है वहाँ से water seepage होता है. So near the lake, the soil of the entire region will be saturated with water because water also moves horizontally. Seepage, percolation, infiltration बताया था याद है? So water also moves horizontally. So the entire region, so जहाँ पर तुमको suppose जहाँ पर भी डैम्स या बड़ा रिजर्वायर्स है, द एंटायर रीजन विल बी सैचुरेटेड विद द वाटर. सॉइल जो है वो सैचुरेट हो जाएगा बिकॉज ऑफ सीपेज. ओके. सो यू विल सी लॉट ऑफ हाइड्रोफाइट्स in these wetlands. So hydrophytes are the plants which are adapted to aquatic ecosystem. So wetland plants include milkweed, water lilies, grasses, okay, sedges, cattail, cypress trees. Mangroves are also found. So mangroves जो है generally they are found in marsh conditions. So तुम्हारा जो है estuaries यहाँ पर होता है. Okay, estuaries means so where your river meets the ocean. So that area where fresh water meets the salt water of ocean, वहाँ का जो water है वो ज़्यादा salty नहीं होता है क्योंकि fresh water and salt water they are meeting, तो सॉल्ट का जो रेंज है वो थोड़ा सा कम हो जाता है, सॉल्ट कॉन्सेंट्रेशन विल रिड्यूस. सो दिस एश्योराइन कंडीशंस, देयर यू विल जनरली सी योर mangroves. But recently, in Amazon rainforest, researchers have found certain mangroves which are growing in freshwater habitat. So freshwater mangroves भी हैं. ऐसा नहीं है कि सिर्फ तुमको marine condition में या estuarine condition में मिलेंगे. Freshwater mangroves are also there. Then wetlands are also home to variety of amphibians. Okay, reptiles, mammals and birds are also there. Beavers, as in the case of your mammals, beavers हैं, minks, raccoons, deer are some examples of mammals. So beavers जो हैं, so we have seen the pictures of beavers in the earlier biomes. So beavers are the, you can say, keystone species. So beavers क्या करते हैं? They dam the flow of, they construct a dam by using all the wood and all the sticks which are available, and they will stop the flow of water. So streams में छोटे छोटे dams बना देते हैं वो. Those dams will hold the water on the backside. So small marshy area will form. So water will stagnate in that region and it will develop an ecosystem on its own. So वहाँ का पूरा ecosystem beavers के ऊपर depend करता है. So beavers are also keystone species. So running freshwater biomes में rivers and streams. So streams are smaller in size. Streams are smaller. Then they merge with larger streams and they ultimately they become tributaries and they will increase in size and ultimately you will have rivers. So source of the rivers are either a spring or either a glacier, melting of a glacier, that will be the source of a stream and ultimately it will transform into a river as more and more streams join. Okay, so ultimately वो जो river है, it will either go into the ocean or it will be inland drainage system where it will go and meet a pond or a lake. या तो समुद्र में जाएगा या तो pond और lake में जाके merge हो जाएगा. Okay. So streams and rivers, they are freshwater biome and they are moving water. Okay, they are not stagnant. So the rest जो information is just you can, either a spring or a lake or melting glacier, they form the source. So source तुम्हारा ज़्यादा cooler होता है when compared to the mouth of the river or stream, because where it reaches the ocean वहाँ का temperature ज़्यादा होगा. जो source है जहाँ से आ रहा है पानी, that will be bit cooler as in the case of melting of glaciers. So just you can go through that. Now plants कौन से मिलेंगे freshwater biome में? Just now I gave an example of mangroves which were growing in Amazon rainforest. So mangroves भी हैं. Okay. Then you have spike rush. This is another sedge है ये. Okay. Cyperaceae family से belong करते हैं. Sedges. So sedges में क्या होता है ना? So this is the stem. So if you cut the stem, transverse section लोगे, the stem will be triangular. Round नहीं होता है. Stem triangular होता है. If you take the plant and cut the stem, यहाँ से cut करोगे ऐसे, and you see transverse section, it will be triangular. Cyperaceae members हैं. So spike rush, it is a sedge. Then you have water lily. So water lily and lotus, they are different. Confuse मत होना, देखने से lotus की तरह लगेगा. Water lily and lotus are different. Lotus is Nilambo. So Nilambo है genus उसका, and water lily is Nymphia. Nymphia and Nilambo, दोनों अलग अलग हैं, different genus. Then you have cattail which is Typha. So Typha ये जो है, these plants are used for thatching purpose. झोपड़ी के ऊपर लगाने के लिए, roofing of those huts. For roofing of huts we use dried cattail. So this is also an aquatic plant. Then we have bulrush. So it is also a Cyperaceae member. Then we have pickerel weed. It is also found in freshwater biome. So these are some examples of plants. फौना क्या मिलेगा तुमको? एनिमल्स, सो वी ऑल नो, यू कैन ईजिली नेम सम ऑफ द फौना. फ्रॉग्स हैं, insects like mosquitoes, turtles, raccoons, shrimp, again it belongs to your crustacean, crabs, tadpoles which are larvae of your frogs, snakes. So these are some of the commonly found animals in the freshwater biome. Then next biome, so there are two types of aquatic biomes, freshwater biome and marine biomes. Again उसमें फिर classification है further. So marine biomes, obviously as the name suggests, it comprises of seas and oceans. Seas are smaller in size compared to oceans. Okay. So marine biomes are water bodies which has high salt concentration 3.5% or above. या फिर बहुत जगह पर तुमको 35 ppt दिया होगा, ऐसे दिया होगा बुक्स में. So 35 parts per thousand. This is 35 parts per thousand, या 3.5%. Alright, so marine ecosystem which live in salty waters are largest of the earth's aquatic ecosystems. Okay, because most of the earth's surface is covered by salt water, that is by oceans and seas. So freshwater habitat contains less salt than the saltwater ones, obviously, common sense hai. So three major marine biomes are there. One is neritic. Again, marine biomes mein we have three different regions. So neritic, oceanic and benthic. Within the marine biomes, again we have three major marine biomes: neritic, oceanic and benthic, depending upon where it is located. Okay, these are basically zones. जैसे तुम्हारा लेक में zones था, वैसे ही ओशन में भी zones होते हैं. So each zone has different ecosystem. It has its own flora and fauna. So they can be classified as biomes. Under marine biomes, we have three different biomes. So neritic, oceanic and benthic. So neritic is basically this zone, continental shelf जो है ना, so water which is in the continental shelf. So continental shelf वाले region में जो भी है वो zone तुम्हारा neritic biome है. So continental shelf is the extension of the land under sea water. So continent का जो land है जो sea water के अंदर extend होता है, that is continental shelf. This water is bit shallow compared to deep sea, it is shallow. And GS में अगर तुम देखोगे कॉन्टिनेंटल शेल्फ के बारे में विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू मिनरल एक्सप्लोरेशन या इंटरनेशनल लॉ ऑफ सीज जो है, इंटरनेशनल लॉ ऑफ सी सेज दैट एवरी कंट्री हैज़ अ राइट टू एक्सप्लोर एंड एक्सप्लॉइट द मिनरल रिसोर्सेज इन द कॉन्टिनेंटल शेल्फ रीजन. सो कॉन्टिनेंटल शेल्फ कितना होगा? तुम्हारा जो एक्सक्लूसिव इकोनॉमिक जोन है, it can go up to 200 nautical miles or to the extent of the continental shelf. जितना continental shelf है उतना पूरा एरिया. या फिर continental shelf अगर तुम्हारा छोटा है, if your continental shelf is not much, so it can extend up to 200 nautical miles. If the continental shelf is greater than 200 nautical miles, then to the extent of the continental shelf, whichever is greater. अगर तुम्हारा continental shelf 300 nautical miles है तो पूरा 300 nautical miles तक मिलेगा. अगर continental shelf छोटा है, suppose 50 miles है बस continental shelf, so your exclusive economic zone will be extended up to 200 nautical miles. तो अगर continental shelf बड़ा है तो up to the extent of continental shelf. अगर continental shelf छोटा है, then your exclusive economic zone will be up to 200 nautical miles. Suppose तुम्हारा continental shelf बहुत ज़्यादा बड़ा है, 500 nautical miles तक है. If your continental shelf extends up to 500 nautical miles, तो क्या 500 nautical miles होगा तुम्हारा? Will your exclusive economic zone extend up to 500 nautical miles? No. Maximum जो extend है that is 350 nautical miles. Maximum 350 nautical miles तक होगा. So 200 nautical miles or up to the extent of continental shelf, whichever is greater. तो कॉन्टिनेंटल शेल्फ अगर बहुत बड़ा है तो पूरा देंगे क्या? नो, मैक्सिमम एक्सटेंट कितना है? 350 नॉटिकल माइल्स. इवन दो योर कॉन्टिनेंटल शेल्फ इज अप टू 500 नॉटिकल माइल्स, उतना नहीं मिलेगा. योर एक्सक्लूसिव इकोनॉमिक जोन विल बी रिस्ट्रिक्टेड टू 350 नॉटिकल माइल्स. सो कॉन्टिनेंटल शेल्फ आया इसलिए बता रहा था. सो नीरिटिक बायोम, so they are found in the ocean water around continental shelf. So they extend from low tide water line to the continental shelf edge. So seas and oceans में you have low tides and high tides due to the gravitational force of moon. So you have low tide and high tide. So ये तुम्हारा high tide line है. That means this area will be submerged under water during the high tide, and during the low tide period the water will be up to here. So high tide line and low tide line. Okay, so कहाँ से शुरू होता है continental shelf? From the low tide line to the edge of the continental shelf. So this entire region will be your neritic biome. So it has its own characteristic, the flora and fauna, right? So because water is shallow, obviously sunlight can penetrate and photosynthesis will happen. Photosynthesis होगा तुम्हारा, right? So because water is shallow here, there is enough sunlight for photosynthesis. Water is also high in nutrients because rivers आ रहे हैं ना. So rivers are continuously bringing lot of nutrients. So जहाँ जहाँ से river जा रहा है, it will dissolve lot of nutrients. Rocks को dissolve करता है. It will bring lot of nutrients from the continent and it will merge with ocean. So rivers are bringing lot of nutrients also. So because of these favorable conditions, neritic biomes support high concentration of phytoplankton. So just give me a minute. So high concentration of phytoplankton, and this will also support other organisms. So this in turn supports other organisms. So they generate adequate food for many other creatures, including zooplankton. They feed on phytoplankton, and nectons. So nectons are fish which has skeleton. So bony fish, skeletal. So sharks, fishes, सब इसके अंदर आता है. So those fishes which have bones. So as a result, neritic biomes have high biomass and diversity. So ये zone में बहुत diversity होता है. You will see different kinds of organisms, and biomass production will also be high because photosynthesis happens in this region because of shallow water. So several types of insects, fish live in them, and neritic biomes are home for most of the world's major saltwater fishing locations. So यहीं पर तुमको fish capturing जो भी activity हो रहा है, because these are the regions where you have most of the fish. So neritic biome. Then oceanic biomes. Oceanic biome means जो neritic biome के बाद तुम्हारा extend हो रहा है. So from the continental shelf, edge of the continental shelf and further. Continental shelf से start होके, edge of the continental shelf से start होके, rest of the ocean comes under oceanic zone. Okay. So oceanic biomes, they are found beyond the continental shelf in the open ocean. All right. So because dissolved nutrient contents are low away from the shore, because near the shore, rivers, they bring lot of nutrients. So away from the shore, तो nutrient levels कम हो जाता है. So this region has low density of organisms when compared to neritic zone. So ocean zone is further subdivided based on the depth. अब यहाँ तक तो surface तक तो sunlight penetrate होगा. After certain extent, after 200 meters or so, light will not penetrate. So this region where light penetration is not there, it will support different type of organisms. This region will support different type of organisms. यहाँ पर light है, right? So depending upon the depth, we have different zones in the oceanic biome. Then, so इसमें क्या है? First is epipelagic zone, up to 200 meters. In this zone, sunlight will penetrate and photosynthesis will happen. So many of the marine algae and phytoplanktons, they can photosynthesize. Then this is epipelagic zone up to 200 meters depth. So bathypelagic zone, so this extends from 1000 meters to 4000 meters. So sunlight does not penetrate below 1000 meters. Up to 1000 meters sunlight can penetrate, but below 1000 meters sunlight penetrate नहीं होता. It is very dark. And beyond 4000, that is up to 6000 meters, you have abyssopelagic zone. And जो तुम्हारा beyond 6000 meters है, so oceanic trenches. So this region is called hadopelagic. So hadopelagic zone. So depending upon the depth, they are known by different names, because sunlight can penetrate up to a certain level. Beyond that, sunlight will not penetrate. So the region where sunlight will not penetrate does not support much of the organisms. So वहाँ पर कुछ organisms रहते हैं, diversity will be very less. So different type of organisms, they live in different zones. So epipelagic में you have higher density. When you go down, you have mesopelagic, bathypelagic, abyssopelagic and hadopelagic region. So depending upon depth, you have different zones in the oceanic biome, and every zone has its own characteristic fauna. All right. Then benthic biomes. So benthic means, so the area which supports benthome. So benthic organisms are those which live on the bottom. So ocean bottom पे जो रहते हैं. So benthic biomes are found in the ocean bottom where benthos live. So these organisms are called benthos. For example, sponges. So sponges, they don't move. Porifera, right? They belong to phylum Porifera. So sponges, they are sessile, they can't move. Okay, so they are glued to the ocean. Some benthos such as clams. So clams क्या है तुम्हारे? These are bivalve mollusks. So bivalve, दो valves होते हैं, bivalved mollusks. They dig into the ocean floor sediments. So some of the benthic organisms, they live on the ocean bottom surface. Some even they dig into the surface. So benthic biome, right? So ये पूरा का पूरा जो है bottom, it is called as benthic biome. So benthic zone is further subdivided depending upon how much below the sea level the ocean bottom is. So ocean bottom पूरा benthic zone है, but again this zone is divided depending upon the depth. Then कैसे है? First is sublittoral zone. So sublittoral zone कौन सा है? So sublittoral zone is between the high tide and low tide region. Sublittoral zone is the continental shelf, not high tide and low tide. Sorry, sublittoral zone जो है, that is the continental shelf. This region, ये वाला जो benthic region है, it is submerged in water. So ये जो है जहाँ तक sunlight penetrate होता है up to certain extent, so this is called as sublittoral zone. It is the area of ocean floor near the shoreline that comprises of continental shelf. Then you have bathyal zone, which is even deeper beyond the continental shelf, between 1000 and 4000 meters below the sea level. Then you have abyssal zone, which is beyond 4000 meters up to 6000 meters below the sea level. So ocean bottom जो है, बॉटम ऑफ द ओशन इज लाइक दिस. सो दिस इज, ये पूरा बेंथिक जोन ही है, बट बेंथिक जोन में भी डिफरेंट लेवल्स हैं डिपेंडिंग अपॉन एट व्हाट डेप्थ द बॉटम इज प्रेजेंट. So deep ocean trenches are called as hadal zones. So only species known to dwell in this zone are found around the hydrothermal vents. So जहाँ पर तुम्हारा volcanic activity हो रहा है, okay, where invertebrates like tube worms and clams can be discovered. They feed on minute archaea species. So archaea are prokaryotes. So they feed on them. So depending upon, so benthic zone जो है वो भी different levels पे है. Shallow level पे अलग नाम है, deeper levels पे different name is given. So apart from that we have other biomes also. So हमने main देख लिया. Then there are smaller biomes. First one is intertidal zone. Intertidal zone is from the high tide line to low tide line. So intertidal zone is basically between these two lines. High tide line and low tide line के बीच का जो area है, this entire area is called intertidal zone. So this area is partly submerged by water during some period of day. दिन में 2 बार high tides आता है, 2 बार low tides आता है. So it is partly submerged and rest of the time it is not submerged. So basically intertidal zone, it is a small biome. So intertidal zone is a short strip of land between high tide and low tide water lines. It is known as littoral zone. Alright. So regular passage of tides in and out is a prominent aspect of this zone. पानी आता जाता रहता है दिन में 2 बार, 2 high tides and 2 low tides. So this zone alternates between underwater at high tide and being exposed to air during the low tides. Obviously high tide में पानी आ जाएगा, it will be submerged. During the low tide it will be exposed. So high tide brings coastal water and heavy nutrient supply on regular basis. So abundance of sunshine is there, so photosynthesis will happen. Okay, and because the water is shallow, large predators will not occur here, so it will support plenty of life, biodiversity. Then estuarine biome. So these also occur at different places where rivers meet the ocean. So estuary, so a bay where a river drains into the ocean is known as estuary. So bay क्या होता है? What is a bay? Bay is a coastline where the land curves inwards and it creates a water body which is surrounded by land on 3 sides. तो ये वाला जो है, ये curve जो है inwards है. This is ocean. This entire thing is ocean. It is a coastline which curves inwards and it is a small water body is created which is surrounded by land on 3 sides. तो ये era जो area है, this is called as bay area. So bay where river drains into ocean is known as estuary. So it is normally semi-closed, which makes it a safe setting for safe setting for flourishing of life और तुम्हारा flora and fauna. So estuarine conditions has its own type of flora and fauna. So it is a biome which has moderate salinity. Fresh water will meet saline water. तो यहाँ का जो salinity है थोड़ा सा कम होता है when compared to oceans. So water is nutrient rich because rivers are bringing lot of nutrients. Sunlight can easily penetrate because shallow waters हैं. So photosynthesis will happen and lot of marine life can be seen because जहाँ पर भी photosynthesis हो रहा है, primary production is happening. So you will see development of a food chain because then you will have consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer. So whole ecosystem will develop in that area. Coral reefs. Okay, so coral reef is an underwater limestone structure formed by corals. So these organisms, they belong to phylum Cnidaria, class Anthozoa. right? Phylum Deridia, class Anthozoa. So these marine polyps, they are colonial animals. They live in colonies. Okay, they have a symbiotic association with a dinoflagellate known as zooxanthellae. Okay, so in the larval stage, when these polyps are in larval stage, so adult stage mein they are sedentary. A short period of time, for a short period of time in their life cycle, they are uh, um, they can move. Okay, they are not sedentary, they can move, and during that period they capture zooxanthellae, and these zooxanthellae, they are in a symbiotic relationship, so they will photosynthesize food material, it will give shelter. तो तुम्हारा जो polyp है, it will give shelter and protection. The zooxanthellae will provide nutrients, nourishment. So the color of the corals is because of the pigmentation of zooxanthellae. Okay, so coral reefs can be found only in the shallow tropical ocean water because photosynthesis चाहिए, right? So the zooxanthellae has to synthesize food. That means food कब synthesize करेगा? Photosynthesis होगा तभी. तो shallow waters and warm temperatures. So temperature extremes में you will not see corals. Only near the tropical regions. I mean, some corals can survive, but most of the corals, they are found near the tropical regions. So warm water and shallow water is ideal for the corals. Okay, so coral reefs, they you can say they are an ecosystem in themselves. Okay, the biodiversity near the coral reefs is very high. So these corals, they are soft bodied, so to protect themselves, these polyps, they secrete calcium carbonate shell around them. So when these polyps die, their body will decompose, but the shell remains. So जो नए polyps हैं, जो नया larva है, they will transform into sessile form. So जो older colony है calcium carbonate का, उसके ऊपर नया colony बनता है. So in this way, your coral reefs are formed. So they are found in the shallow warm waters. Shallow water because sunlight has to penetrate and photosynthesis will not happen if light is not there. Then plant adaptations क्या है इसमें? So most oceanic plants have adapted to the environment by developing gas sacs because they have to float. Float क्यों होगा? Because they can't live deep in the water, they have to remain in the surface to photosynthesize. So flotation mechanism, so to float, to keep them afloat, they have developed certain mechanism like gas sacs or air sacs to lift their photosynthetic surfaces so that it can capture sunlight. For example, यहाँ पर जो दिख रहा है तुमको, this is sargasso seaweed. Sargasso seaweed है, यहाँ पर जो छोटे छोटे राउंड राउंड देख रहे हो, they are also known as sea grapes. So you can see small sacs are there which has air in it, which will keep the weed afloat in the ocean so that it can photosynthesize, right? तो इसी weed के वजह से you have a sargasso sea. So near the Florida, on the eastern side of the United States, south eastern side of the United States, you have Sargasso Sea because उस एरिया में ये वीड बहुत ज़्यादा prominent है. That is why the entire region, वो जो sea है, वो इस वीड की वजह से उसको Sargasso Sea बोलते हैं. Sargasso Sea is because of the presence of this weed. The name is given. So oceanic plants, on oceanic plants, the root structure is called as holdfast organ क्योंकि ocean currents हैं, वो सब आते हैं. So water is also moving horizontally. Okay. So to keep it in one place, they have a hold fast organ which will attach to the substratum and keep the weed in one place. So most of the plants which you see, they are not vascular, they are basically algae. Okay. So most oceanic plants are more properly typed as macroscopic algae than vascular plants. So these are not vascular plants, these are macroscopic algae. Then oceanic plants must be able to handle the high salt concentration. So they have developed certain mechanism to either break down the salt. Okay, so they either break down the salt into chlorine and sodium ions, or store it and pass it along the respiratory products of the plant, right? Or they have adapted themselves to remain in the regions where they have less salinity. So they have adapted different mechanisms. So freshwater plants में क्या है? So they have spongy tissue called erenchyma, which is helping them in keep afloat. Erenchyma helps the plant to keep afloat, and it also helps to transport oxygen, okay, to the roots, because roots तो पानी में है. The leaves can exchange the oxygen, but roots को कैसे मिलेगा oxygen? So roots are inside the water, so oxygen is carried through erenchyma to the roots. Then other mechanism is that floating horizontal leaves are there. So these plants, they have floating horizontal leaves so that they can capture sunlight and synthesize their own food. So for photosynthesis, to carry on photosynthesis, they have developed this particular adaptation. The leaves are floating or they have horizontal leaves, and in most cases the leaves emerge out of the water. They are not submerged, they will emerge. So emergent leaves is also one of the adaptation. Animals, okay, so fish can drink salt water and eliminate salt through their gills. Seabirds also drink salt water and excess salt is eliminated via nasal or salt glands. So birds जो हैं, they also take in lot of salt and they can remove the salt through salt glands. Whales can drink salt water. Whales, they have specialized kidneys which can tolerate, so they can drink salt water, it can filter out salt. But normally जो whales हैं, they get most of the water through organisms. Instead of drinking salt water, they get their water by eating organisms. तो जो organism के अंदर पानी है, उस moisture है, वो source है पानी का. Generally it does not drink salt water. It has the mechanism to remove the salt because of the specialized kidneys, but most of the water which it gets is through food. Fish and other organisms that live underwater can take the oxygen from the water through gills or through skin. So marine mammals, they have to come, जो mammals हैं उनके अंदर ये mechanism नहीं है. So mammals need to come to the water surface to breathe. तो whales में देखा होगा, they have a special structure on their back. Blow holes बोलते हैं इनको. तुमने देखा होगा, it will breathe out air. So ऐसे fountain की तरह पानी छोड़ता है. Okay, so they can breathe carbon dioxide. They can expel carbon dioxide. So whales can stay under the water for a long period of time. Okay, because they have very efficient way of oxygen exchange percentage जो है तुम्हारा 90% है, 90% of the lung volume. So जो भी air लिया है, most of it will go to the bloodstream and exchange जो तुम्हारा oxygen exchange है, it is high. Efficient use of lungs by exchanging up to 90% of the lung volume with each breath. So they can store large quantities of oxygen in their blood and muscles while they dive. So they can stay in water for a long period of time. Okay, so they can also dive deep also, because as you go deeper, the pressure increases, the water pressure increases, so it will crush you. But some of the organisms, they can dive deep. Most of the organisms, they live within a particular level. ज़्यादा deep नहीं जाते हैं. Most of the organisms, they remain in their zone. But some organisms may go deeper and they come back. So they have adapted, they have certain adaptations. For example, sperm whale जो है, So sperm whale is thought to be able to dive 1.5 miles below the ocean surface because they have collapsible lungs. Okay, their lungs, lower part of the lungs it collapses, upper part में अभी collapse नहीं होता because they have a cartilage. Lower part of the lungs they will collapse to tolerate the pressure. Deep water में ज़्यादा pressure होता है. Even certain turtles, leatherback sea turtle, it also has a collapsible lung. And even the carapace, ये जो तुम्हारा जो leather back है उसके ऊपर, the shield, it is also collapsible. So animals in the intertidal zone, they don't have to deal with high water pressure, but those animals which are living deep in the water, they have certain mechanisms because of which they can move to different zones. So many marine invertebrates which are living in the intertidal zones. So intertidal zone is तुम्हारा near the shore. तो वहाँ पर क्या है? You have ocean currents, sorry not ocean currents, you have tides. So tidal waves आते रहते हैं. So the pressure is not because of the depth, but the pressure is because of the tidal waves, and they cling to rocks or hard surfaces. They have a shell, hard shell to protect themselves. So they also have certain adaptations. So whales में क्या होता है? So this is the lung of the whale. So blue whale fills and expands the lung on the surface before they dive. But when they go deeper, जब वो deep जाते हैं, तो lower part जो है, ये वाला part जो है, lower part, it collapses. जो upper part है, it won't collapse because of the cartilage. It will protect the upper part, and it will have air so that it can easily come back. So collapsible lung is an adaptation to go deeper into the ocean. So some organisms, they require light. So organisms that need light, such as tropical coral reefs and their associated algae, they are found in the shallow water. Okay. So as you go deeper, visibility भी कम हो जाता है. So whales हैं, they go very deep. So वहाँ पर तो तुमको light नहीं मिलता है. So they don't depend upon the light to see the prey or predator. What they do is, again whales का तो predators नहीं है. So I mean to say other organisms. So to catch their prey, they don't require light to see them. They use echolocation. So that is use of sound waves. And these sound waves, when they pass them, so अगर कोई prey है तो there will be reflection. So these sound waves, they will be reflected back. जैसे सोनार यूज करते हैं ना, सोनार का प्रिंसिपल है basically. So depths of the ocean abyss. So in the depths of the ocean abyss, that is very deep, 4,000 to 6,000 meters. So some fish have lost their eyes क्योंकि लाइट ही नहीं है वहाँ पर. सो लाइट नहीं है तो आइस का ज़रूरत नहीं है. बॉडी पिगमेंटेशन इज ऑल्सो नॉट देयर बिकॉज सनलाइट जब नहीं है तो पिगमेंटेशन की क्या ज़रूरत है. देयर इज़ नो नीड फॉर पिगमेंटेशन. सो अदर ऑर्गेनिजम्स, दे हैव bioluminescence. They have developed bioluminescence or an association with bioluminescent bacteria. या तो वो खुद डेवलप कर लिया या फिर बैक्टीरिया का एसोसिएशन की वजह से, टू अट्रैक्ट द प्रे एंड ऑल. वो भी है, टू अट्रैक्ट प्रेस एंड मेट्स, दे हैव डेवलप्ड दिस बायोल्यूमिनेसेंस और एन एसोसिएशन विद बैक्टीरिया विच हैज बायोल्यूमिनेसेंस. इंपॉर्टेंस क्या है एक्वाटिक बायोम का? फिशेस है, फूड प्रोवाइड करता है, ओशन, they also regulate the temperature, they are also carbon sink and all that, so you can just go through them. And aquatic biomes also provide food for animals. Freshwater जो biomes हैं, they are very essential for the survival of all the organisms, terrestrial organisms, so you can just go through that. Threats क्या हैं? Pollution. Both freshwater and marine biomes are susceptible to pollution. So the pollutants, it can damage the aquatic biome. So pollution from various sources, industrial discharge है, agricultural pollutants हैं. So pollutants like chemicals, heavy metals, nutrients, plastic, can degrade the water quality and harm the aquatic life. This is common sense. So habitat loss and degradation. Okay, so aquatic habits including wetlands, rivers, coral reefs are being lost or degraded due to factors like urbanization, deforestation, dam construction. Then overfishing and unsustainable harvesting. So entire food chain will be disturbed when you try to over harvest anything. पूरा ecosystem disturb हो जाएगा. So overfishing, unsustainable fishing practices, excessive harvesting can damage the ecosystem. Then invasive species. So one example is your common carp, Cyprinus carpio. So that is quite commonly found in those ecosystem where eutrophication has happened. So invasive species can modify the ecosystem or has negative impact on ecosystems. They can disturb the ecosystem, so that is another danger. Climate change, because precipitation change हो जाता है. Climate change की वजह से it has significant effect on precipitation. So ocean acidity is another problem which is also affecting coral reefs. Coral bleaching होता है उसकी वजह से. Okay, sea levels are rising because of global warming. Salt concentration change हो रहा है. Okay, because when the snow melts or ice melts, fresh water goes into the marine ecosystem and it will alter the salt concentration, at least for a temporary period of time. Then water extraction and damming. So fresh water biomes की बात कर रहे हैं हम लोग. Okay, excessive water extraction and construction of dams can damage the ecosystem, and lack of awareness in the people. So these are some of the dangers. So that was your marine or aquatic ecosystem. तो तुम्हारा biomes खत्म हो गया. Marine and freshwater biomes we have seen. Now we'll start with biogeochemical cycles. So at least we'll see nitrogen. Okay. So biogeochemical cycles are basically it describes how your chemical elements, how the chemical elements, they are moving or they are recycled in the biosphere. So how these elements they move or they transform from organic to inorganic form, how these elements enter into the there are in the ecosystem we have biological components, that is organisms. Then you have physical components like you have air, water, right, temperature, rainfall, right. Abiotic and biotic components are there. Biotic components and abiotic components interact, right. So energy enters into any ecosystem through photosynthesis. So energy जो capture कर रहा है ecosystem, the primary producers they carry on photosynthesis. So photosynthesis happens by capturing sun's energy. So energy will enter into an ecosystem. It will move from one trophic level to another trophic level. So this energy is ultimately lost in the form of heat. तो जब organism जब तक grow कर रहा है, I mean suppose in case of plants, it will capture the sunlight and it will create, I mean it will carry on photosynthesis and it will produce biomass, right. Plant grow हो रहा है, biomass produce हो रहा है. When this plant dies, it will decompose and organic matter जो भी उसने capture किया है, that will be transferred into carbon dioxide and energy, heat. So whatever energy it has captured, it will be lost, right. So energy will enter into the ecosystem. It will be transferred from one trophic level to another trophic level, and ultimately it will be lost in the form of heat. But जो elements हैं, so elements, they will form molecules and compounds will be formed. So these elements, they are not lost, they are recycled. वो recycle होते हैं. They don't leave ecosystem, they are recycled. So biogeochemical cycles will explain how this recycling of chemical elements will take place. जैसे तुम्हारा फॉर एग्जांपल नाइट्रोजन है और सपोज कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड है. सो कार्बन साइकिल में कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड विल बी कैप्चर्ड बाय प्लांट्स. सो photosynthesis, how do you define photosynthesis chemically? So carbon dioxide will be reduced. ऑक्सीडेशन एंड रिडक्शन पता है? रिडक्शन का मतलब क्या है? रिडक्शन मीन्स रिमूवल ऑफ ऑक्सीजन और एडिशन ऑफ हाइड्रोजन, दैट इज रिडक्शन. Oxidation means addition of oxygen or removal of hydrogen, right? So oxidation and reduction के बारे में पता है, you might have learned in the school. So here what happens is carbon dioxide is reduced to form carbohydrate, right? So plants के अंदर it will be stored in the form of carbohydrate. Now when this plant dies, so this carbohydrate will be decomposed and ultimately carbon dioxide will be released back into the atmosphere. So recycling is happening. So how these elements, chemical elements, are recycled between organic and inorganic components of an ecosystem is basically your biogeochemical cycles. वो कैसे recycle होते हैं? How they move from organic to inorganic form. Okay, so that is basically biogeochemical cycle. So first we will see what is the meaning and we will define it. Then we will enter into nitrogen cycle. So word bio means living, geo means rock, and chemical means we are talking about chemical elements. Right. So if you break down the term biogeochemical cycle, so biogeochemical का मतलब क्या है? How these chemical elements are moving from living to non-living. So living element, living organism से non-living तुम्हारा जो बायोटिक सिस्टम से एबायोटिक सिस्टम में कैसे ट्रांसफॉर्म हो रहा है, एंड हाउ दे आर मूविंग बैक फ्रॉम एबायोटिक सिस्टम टू बायोटिक सिस्टम. सो बायोटिक, abiotic. So these elements are moving from biotic to abiotic system. So obviously for example तुम्हारा जो प्रोटीन है, for example, so प्रोटीन जो है it is in organic form inside a organism. Suppose एक कोई एनिमल है, उसके बॉडी के अंदर प्रोटीन है, मसल्स के अंदर, राइट? सो इट इज इनसाइड द बायोटिक कंपोनेंट नाउ. सो प्रोटीन जो है एनिमल के अंदर है. नाउ व्हेन दिस ऑर्गेनिज्म डाइज एंड विल डिकम्पोज, मिनरलाइजेशन विल हैपन. जो प्रोटीन है, द प्रोटीन विल बी ब्रोकन डाउन इनटू अमीनो एसिड्स, AA amino acids. These amino acids will be transformed into ammonia. This ammonia will be transformed into nitrite and ultimately transformed into nitrate. तो मिनरलाइज होके इनऑर्गेनिक फॉर्म में हो जाएगा. सो ऑर्गेनिक फॉर्म में है, प्रोटीन इज इन ऑर्गेनिक फॉर्म, इट विल बी ट्रांसफॉर्म्ड इनटू इनऑर्गेनिक फॉर्म. सो फ्रॉम बायोटिक, that is inside the organism, into the soil, that is abiotic component. So it will move from biotic component to abiotic component, that is from organic form to inorganic form. And again, so plants जो हैं, plants will take up the nitrate, plants nitrate को ले लेंगे, and plants will again produce amino acids and protein inside them. these will be eaten by the animals, उनके अंदर प्रोटीन जाएगा, and when plants and animals die, again nitrates will be formed. So this is how recycling happens. So basically biogeochemical cycles, they explain how these chemical elements are transforming from organic form to inorganic form and vice versa, and how they are moving from biotic component to abiotic component, right? So thus biogeochemical cycles can be defined as cyclic exchange of material between living organisms and their non-living environment. cyclic exchange of material, ये material क्या है? chemical elements, to ensure conservation of nutrients in the ecosystem. So these nutrients, they are not lost like energy जैसे है. So in sun, the energy will enter into ecosystem in the form of sunlight and through photosynthesis, and ultimately it will be lost from the ecosystem in the form of heat through decomposition. Okay, so energy flows through an ecosystem and it is released as heat, but chemical elements, they are not lost, they are recycled. So या तो organic form to inorganic form में होंगे, या फिर from biotic component to abiotic component they will move, and from abiotic component again they are moving to biotic component. So they are recycled, they are not lost. Sometimes they are temporarily fixed, यानी वो recycling नहीं होता है for a short period of time. We will see that case again, but here chemical elements, they are not lost, they are recycled. Okay, so the ways in which an element or compound moves between several biotic and abiotic forms and locations in the biosphere is called as biogeochemical cycle. So the way in which elements or compounds move between several biotic and abiotic forms, तो तुम्हारा प्रोटीन जो है बायोटिक फॉर्म में था, ऑर्गेनिक फॉर्म में था, देन नाइट्रेट वाज इन एबायोटिक फॉर्म, एंड लोकेशन भी, फॉर एग्जांपल कार्बन साइकिल में CO2 वाज इन द एटमॉस्फेयर, दैट कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड वाज कैप्चर्ड इन द फॉर्म ऑफ कार्बोहाइड्रेट ऑन द लिथोस्फीयर. जो एटमॉस्फेयर में था इट वाज ट्रांसफॉर्म्ड, आई मीन द लोकेशन हैज चेंज फ्रॉम एटमॉस्फेयर टू लिथोस्फीयर, क्योंकि प्लांट्स ने कैप्चर कर लिया कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड को कार्बोहाइड्रेट के फॉर्म में. लोकेशन ऑल्सो हैज चेंज्ड, द फॉर्म ऑल्सो हैज चेंज्ड. आर यू गेटिंग इट? बायोजियोकेमिकल साइकिल समझ में आ रहा है क्या होता है? सो दिस एक्सप्लेन्स द बायोजियोकेमिकल साइकिल in a better way. So basically the way in which elements or compounds move between several biotic and abiotic forms, and the location also changes. So how it moves, basically they are recycled, they are not lost. That is your biogeochemical cycle. Please respond so that I can move on. समझ में आया ये बायोजियोकेमिकल साइकिल क्या है? Okay, so it is movement of nutrients and other elements between the living and non-living beings. Okay, so हम लोग एनर्जी की बात कर रहे हैं, राइट? सो सनलाइट के बारे में बात कर रहे थे. सो एनर्जी फ्लोज डायरेक्शनली थ्रू द इकोसिस्टम एंटरिंग एज सनलाइट. ओके, सो प्लांट्स जो हैं, जो ऑटोट्रॉफ्स हैं, there are two types, photoautotrophs and chemoautotrophs. So chemoautotrophs, they get their energy from chemical reaction, तो हम उसकी बात नहीं कर रहे हैं. Okay, so energy flows directionally through the ecosystem entering as sunlight and leave as heat during the energy transformations between trophic levels, right? So rather than flowing through an ecosystem, matter की बात कर रहे हैं, sunlight की बात नहीं कर रहे हैं. The energy which is captured from the sun, it moves through the trophic levels. So rather than flowing through the ecosystem, the matter that makes up the organisms is conserved and recycled. It is not lost in the form of heat, it is conserved and recycled. Okay. So for example, after a chemical reaction, the mass of the products will be equal to the mass of reactants. So दोनों तरफ equal होता है. So same is true with the ecosystem. So matter moves through the different media and atoms may react to form new molecules, but the total amount of matter remains constant. Matter can change from one form to another form. जैसे तुम्हारा nitrate था, nitrate is taken by the plants and they will transform it into ammonia and amino acids in organic form में convert कर लेंगे. So inorganic form is converted into organic form. When plants die, mineralization happens. जो organic form है, proteins will be broken down into amino acids, then amines, then your ammonia will be formed, nitrate will be formed. Again they will come back into the soil and plants will again take them. So it is recycled. It is not lost. Total matter will remain constant. How this recycling is happening? That is your biogeochemical cycles. How the matter moves from biotic to abiotic and again back. This is your biogeochemical cycles. So types of biogeochemical cycle, there are two types, gaseous and sedimentary, based on the nature of reservoir. तो gaseous में basically जो तुम्हारा reservoir है, that is in the gaseous form or in liquid form. So for example, your hydrological cycle, carbon cycle, oxygen cycle, nitrogen cycle, it is in the gaseous form. जो reservoir है 78% something is the composition of the gases. If you see 78% is nitrogen. तो तुम्हारा reservoir जो है वो gaseous form में है or in the liquid form. So gaseous cycle or sedimentary cycle. So based on the nature of reservoir, sedimentary में basically in the form of rocks. So the reservoir is basically rocks, that is sedimentary nutrient cycle or biogeochemical cycle. Gaseous biogeochemical cycle is where the reservoir is in gaseous form or in the form of liquid. So the main reservoir of nutrients is in the atmosphere and in the hydrosphere. So gaseous cycles tend to move more rapidly and adjust readily to the changes in the biosphere because of the large atmospheric reservoir. So they move rapidly, they can easily adjust. छोटे छोटे डिस्टर्बेंसेस उनको ज़्यादा साइकिल को डिस्टर्ब नहीं करता है. सो लार्ज इवेंट्स लाइक वॉल्केनिक इरप्शन और फॉरेस्ट फायर्स और एंथ्रोपोजेनिक एक्टिविटी, ह्यूमन एक्टिविटी ऑफ इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन और ग्लोबल वार्मिंग, so they may disturb the gaseous cycle. Otherwise small disturbances won't change much, वो ज़्यादा affect नहीं करते हैं. So extraordinary disturbances such as global warming and more frequent local disturbances like wildfires, okay, volcanic eruption, they may disturb the gaseous cycle. Examples क्या हैं? वाटर साइकिल, ऑक्सीजन साइकिल, कार्बन साइकिल एंड नाइट्रोजन साइकिल, बिकॉज यहाँ का जो रिजर्वायर है आइदर इट इज इन द हाइड्रोस्फीयर और इन द एटमॉस्फेयर. ओके. देन सेडिमेंट्री साइकिल में क्या है? द रिजर्वायर इज इन द अर्थ क्रस्ट, रॉक्स के अंदर है रिजर्वायर. द रिजर्वायर इज इन द रॉक्स. सो सेडिमेंट्री साइकिल वेरी फ्रॉम वन एलिमेंट टू अनदर, बट ईच साइकिल कंसिस्ट ऑफ फंडामेंटली ए सॉल्यूशन और वाटर रिलेटेड form or phase and a rock, that is a sediment phase. So इस cycle में definitely there will be a solution phase and there will be a sediment phase. Examples are phosphorus cycle. So basically जो phosphorus जो तुम्हारा soil में आ रहा है या फिर तुम्हारा atmosphere में आ रहा है, it is mainly coming from the rocks. Same is the case with sulfur cycle. Some other sources are also there, but mainly the reservoir is the sediments. That is the main reservoir. So two types of cycles are there. Importance. What is the importance of biogeochemical cycles? So proper functioning of various biogeochemical cycles is crucial. So these cycles transform matter from one form to another form. Okay. So you can just go through them that. So the stability of the ecosystem depends upon that. So this is general information. You can just go through it. Now, again, it might take at least 15 minutes more to complete the nitrogen cycle. All right. So we'll stop it here for today. Tomorrow we'll complete all the cycles, all the 4 cycles: nitrogen, carbon, sulfur and phosphorus. So we'll complete all the 4 cycles tomorrow. Each cycle will take at least 15 to 20 minutes. So maximum 15 to 20 minutes. So nitrogen cycle is bit, you require bit explanation here, but sulfur and phosphorus are smaller. So tomorrow we'll complete all the cycles. I thought we can go through the biomes pretty quickly, but again animal adaptations के पास थोड़ा सा explanation ये वो हो गया. Okay, we'll stop it here. Tomorrow we'll deal with these biogeochemical cycles: nitrogen, phosphorus, carbon and sulfur. All right. So thank you very much. If you have any doubt, you can ask. I will make sure that notes will be uploaded. तुमको इनका notes मिल जाएगा. You can just go through it again, revise again and make short notes. Okay, good night.